Hey everybody in the Perfect Step land, this is Jason. Today we're going to discuss a technique for respiratory distress. And with me, I have a special guest, the amazing Dr. Barbara Blasko, emergency room physician, who's going to talk a little bit further in depth of what this technique involves.
Hi, I'm Dr. Blasko. So I am an emergency room physician, and I've been working on the front lines of COVID ever since it started way back in March. I have to admit, I actually didn't know what proning was until COVID came along. So proning is a position that we put patients in that are very sick that actually helps them to breathe. So when patients get to the point where they really can't breathe, they've developed this technique where they put patients, instead of laying on their back in the traditional fashion, they put them on their stomach, and I'll show you how we do it. So normally, a patient is in bed, and they're laying like this. And if you can see, this way, when you're laying down, your lungs are what's called dependent. So they're down at the bottom, and it's hard for you to get air to those areas of lung that are down in the dependent position. And unfortunately, COVID attacks the lungs to a point where it causes severe pneumonia and inflammation. And the patients that we've seen that have COVID are getting pneumonia in these areas of the lungs. So as you can imagine, if you have inflammation and pneumonia in the dependent parts of your lungs, and then you put somebody flat, the only places that can exchange oxygen are high up in the lungs up here. And that really reduces the oxygen exchange, and we have a hard time keeping these patients with a high enough oxygen to support them. So what the technique of proning is basically putting patients on their belly and on their face and in a bed, and they're breathing this way. Now, as you can imagine, it's probably not the most comfortable thing because you have to lay with your face to the side. Most of the patients that have COVID that are put in the prone position laying flat, unfortunately, are intubated. So they have a breathing tube and they're on sedative medication. So the position really isn't all that uncomfortable for them because they're sedated. They found that this position really helps the lungs to open up because when you're laying flat like this, these areas that weren't getting oxygen before are now opened up and allowed to get a lot more oxygen. So they found that proning the patients for anywhere from 12 to 16 hours a day really improves their oxygen delivery and their overall recovery.